Good morning, it's Jane. Oh boy. I have a couple of things that I've got finished, but they happen to be mostly sewing items, and I'll show you those in a minute. Um, as far as my knitting on my sleeves, I got a little bit further, about an inch further, so I'm going to move that up. I think I should be able to get this done this week, hopefully. But, and then it'll be just a matter of sewing everything together. So I did get that far. Now, I did do some crocheting, and I'm going to show you a couple of those things, and they're just real simple. And these are Operation Christmas Child. They're Frisbees. You have a little bit of a lip in there, a little bit of a lip in here. This one is a smaller one, and this is Sarah Satch's Frisbee. It's also a dog toy, so she uses it for a dog toy. This one, I can't remember what it is, but you just increase until you're ready to go. I want to say it was off of Easy or Else on YouTube. She has a flying disc pattern that she teaches you and gives you tips and tricks on. And I think that's where this one came from. The other thing is it can be a ring toss or it can be a Frisbee. And this just is real simple. You just use the outer ring of like a sour cream top, top to your yogurts, whatever. You can use different sizes, all kinds of sizes. I had someone that had donated this is the top off of an icing. You just cut the inner thing and then you just crochet around it, weave in your ends. And those are just some great fun toys to make. Now this one, I am going to, and of course I've made a bunch more scrunchies. I make those, when I'm sitting doing something at church or whatever. This one combines sewing and crochet, and this is taking one of the little Dollar Tree dolls and creating a little blanket for them to wrap the baby in. So I'm going to take the blanket off, and I'll show you that again because it is a sewing. But I just crocheted a little doll outfit. And I think this one, if I had joined it here, it would be considered a little bit of a romper. This was a first attempt to make something. I'm not real happy with the way the dress came out, and I'm going to kind of finesse and work on that. As far as the hat goes, it's real simple. You just increase rounds until the hat fits on the back of the head. And then you just do single crochets around or half double, whatever you want, until it's about the size to fit on the doll's head. For the back, for a button, I used just a pony bead. Sewed the pony bead on there, and then that can be used as a button to connect. For the sleeves, if you know anything about making doll clothes, it's pretty easy. You crochet a chain that's long enough to go around your doll neck, and then you would probably do another row of double crochet with some increases here and there. And then your next row, you could start your sleeves, or you could even go a couple more rows before you start the sleeves. Sleeves are easy. You crochet a certain amount. You're going to divide it out. And the easiest way to do is to lay it across your doll. Figure out where her arms start. Put in some stitch markers. And then basically just do a couple of stitches until you get to probably about 6 stitches from your markers. And then you would skip 6 stitches, join, crochet across. Then here you would stop, adding on that next row. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. And then you would skip 6 stitches and then crochet to your end. And then you could just crochet along for just a shirt or make it a full dress all the way down. Lots of times for the dolls, because they do kind of go out like this, you need to increase. But I think I probably could have got away with just crocheting straight down for a dress for this doll. But yeah, real quick, simple, easy, fast, those kind of things. And that's it for the knit and crochet. The sewing, this is just a 10-inch square for the Dollar Tree dolls. And you just sew it up, and then on the back, I'm using that t-shirt yarn that I had. And you just sew it in the center of your X. You can make an X if you want. That kind of thing. Easy peasy. This is one of the larger bears that Dollar Tree has. And the outer is just where I've taken my scraps and sewn them together to make this square. And excuse the mess on the inside, I haven't cleaned it up. But basically, it is a 14-inch square for the larger bears. And then I just did a big X through the center. And there at the center, I tacked in a length of ribbon so that it can be tied around the waist of the doll. Like I said, easy peasy. Now, some of these next sewing things, and these are all, Operation Christmas Child as well. One of the next things I did is make a marbles bag, drawstring bag, and it'll hold all the marbles for the kids to play with. But it's real easy to make, and on the sewing channel, I think I'll show this version because it's basically you just cut a square, not a square, a rectangle big enough, and then you'll do a little sewing trick that makes it a little easier, so you don't have to worry about hemming and all that kind of stuff. And then I've also been making some of the menstruation pads. These are designed so that they snap around the panty this way. Now, these are menstruation pads, but they can also be used as incontinence pads. And I've got a big stack in the back that I've been going through, and I just kind of do what I call chain piecing, chain sewing with them. But they're real simple to make. They're not too hard. The biggest thing is for the inner core, you're going to use flannel and some microfiber that absorbs liquid quickly and easily. And those are usually, you find those in the shop section of your stores. And they want a certain GSM on them. But here's my problem. I cannot stand the feel of microfiber on my hands. And so I basically was using my quilting gloves to actually handle that and then to sandwich them. Once the flannel and the microfiber and then another layer of flannel in between was layered, then I can handle it. But it was a pain to handle there because, what can I say? I have so many issues with it. Now the next item is a little cutesy item. And again, this is using some scraps. And it is basically sewing some little dolls. And there's the little doll. See if we can get her face there. And I gotta tell you, this yarn was a pain in the butt, but I was like, what can I do with it? And so I did use it and put it in there. And then I used a little bit of the eyelash yarn with this one. This one was another one of those types of yarns. So it was a way to use it up. This one is some of that flower yarn, you know, that has the little flowers on the tip supposedly. And I never did really like using it, so just made a couple of dolls. And again, the fabric is using scraps. You can cut them any size you want. Generally, this top part is anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 inches. The bottom piece is like 6 to 8 inches, or 6.5 to 8.5 inches. Sew stuff them. Just make sure your seam is in the back. Real easy peasy. A lot of fun. And then the last thing that I did make this week is I made a couple of just bags to go in the boxes. And these are some scraps that I'd gotten through the fire haul, you know, that were left for the quilting pieces. So I just made a couple of bags. These are easy too. And then I haven't ironed this one. And then the inside, it's got French seams. So, and I just used the same fabric in and out. So, yeah. And that is it for that part of the sewing and all that kind of fun stuff. Let me see what this is. And yeah, a lot of these, the dolls can be used anywhere, not just Operation Christmas Child. Those are great dolls to give out anytime for just whatever reason, you know. I have seen them called ouchie dolls because when a nurse would make these so that when child had a procedure, stitches put in, that kind of stuff, that she would give them one of these little dolls to hold. It's just a fun way to use up some stuff. But I will tell you, using those fancier yarns, I had a lot of fluff go up my nose. So I've determined they get yarn hair from now on. So maybe a strand or two of some of that crazier yarn. But yeah, definitely yarn hair from now on. Okay, I have a battery about to die, so hold on and I'll change out and we'll get back into it. Okay, now at the very end I'm going to show you, I think I have another cup of video of the cats doing something stupid, I don't know. But I am also going to attach a video. Our church this week had what they call missions fair, and so after church, they had tables alongside the lobby area there where you could go and find out different things about the different missions that the church has. And kind of give you an idea, we have a greeters team mission. We have the children's ministry, outreach, Awana, the coffee bar ministry, Operation Christmas Child ministry, senior lunch ministry, women's ministry, grief ministry, greeting card. We have missions table. We have take a meal ministries, which is take a meal for certain families. You know, say the family in one of your church body has been in the hospital, come home, or had a new baby. So it's an opportunity for you to take a meal to them. Tech team, men's garage, men's night, I don't know what they call themselves, the men's ministry. And I think I'm skipping a ministry, but I can't remember what that one is. But anyway, we all had little tables set up so we could go along and show different items. So I'm going to add that video at the very end. But it was just a lot of fun. Busy day. I always find it interesting how many people, because the day before we went in to set up for this fair, which means we put the tables out, put chairs behind them. So if people were manning them, they'd have a place to sit, you know, a little bit of relaxing, that kind of thing, while they're doing, explaining to different people. And what it is it's an opportunity for people to kind of ask questions about the different ministries and maybe plug into serving in those. Because some of those things are pretty important to be able to do, you know, to serve your community and serve your church, those kind of things. You're serving Christ. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun, very interesting. Well, like I said, it's always amazing how many people, when they leave because they think there's a crew that's going to do this, which normally it would have been housekeeping's job to do that. But the day before, quite a few of us met to set up and basically to get our tables ready. So what we did is we set up the tables all along the entire thing for everyone else. We had banners that one of our church members, the company he works for, they made the banners. So we attached those to the table, put some tablecloths on them. So all they had to do was set up their table. But a lot of those people don't realize that afterwards they need to stay, help, and break down. And quite a few of them didn't, but those of us that, you know, were there the day before, we stayed and helped break down. Took about 15 minutes to break it down completely, to get it all cleaned up, and then we were ready to leave. So, yeah, just, you know, interesting to see. And we had a lot of people that asked a lot of questions. And one of the questions someone had asked me about, because I was manning the Operation Christmas Child table, was the idea of sending clothes, because I had a couple of pieces of clothing. I had a dress and, you know, some of those leggings and a top there. You know, why on earth would you send those things, you know, not knowing where they're going or whatever? And basically, a lot of the reason that I send those things is because it is known that if you send these things for many of these girls in some of the third world countries, that it will keep them from being sex trafficked. Many of the children don't have clothing at all. Some may run around naked. Some may run around with just a pair of underwear on, and they're fair game. And there are a lot of sick people in this world. So, there. We'll just go with that. But one of her other questions was she can't stand long at the processing centers, but she would be interested in helping at the process centers. Now, I do know the processing center does have opportunities for those who cannot stand for long periods of time. I do think that they will provide a stool or a chair, you know, at your table, but I'm not positive. But Dee Rogers on YouTube has been to the Baltimore processing center, and we always think that they just process through Christmas. They process year-round in all of these processing centers. So they're just big push to get the boxes in, or is in November. But yeah, those boxes go out year-round. But there is a spot where you can sign up, and you can, if you are wheelchair bound, if you need to sit more than stand. There are areas that they can use you at the processing centers, and they will. And the training is very easy. Okay, many times it may be that you have to match socks because they've found, a bunch of socks that were unmatched, or because they have corporate donations of socks that are not put together. You may need to put those socks together, roll those up so they can be put into one of the bins, as add-ins for some of the boxes. So there are a lot of things that you can do if you're not able to stand. And so I hope that doesn't keep any of you, if you would like to do some of the processing to sign up for it. You can always call the processing centers and find out, if there is some accommodations that they can make for you. All right, you ready for a little what in Tarnation? Library book back in circulation after being 98 years overdue. Librarians in Ohio said a copy of Wild West by Bertrand W. Sinclair is returning to circulation after being returned 98 years past its due date. Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library said on social media that the tome was checked out 1926 and returned to Prince Hill Branch in late 2024. Christopher Smith, the facility's Genealogy and Research Services reference librarian, said the book was found by a family on the shelf of an elderly relative who had recently died. We assume it's the person who checked it out, but we don't know. Smith said it would take a lot of digging through old records to find out. The library even has lending ledgers that old. Even that would be interesting to find out. The library bought a new copy of the book a few years after it failed to return, and that copy is still in circulation. Although Smith said now this one will be joined by its long-absent twin. I just found it fascinating, the fact that it came back in decent shape considering it's a 100-year-old book. That's crazy. The fact that it made it back to us and just didn't make it into the garbage, or recycling, or getting ground up for paper pulp. Wow, it's amazing. Smith said the library no longer charges late fees, but he estimated the 98-year-old overdue book would have accrued about $730 in fines under their old system. Police chases sometimes are hilarious and they're fun to see. I'm sure this one was an interesting one to see. Got a tickle in my throat. Let me get a drink. So annoying. Ohio police chased down loose goat on busy highway. A goat on the loose in Ohio City led police on a hoof chase on a busy highway before getting a new home at a farm. The Akron Police Department said officers responded to multiple calls about a goat on State Road 8 North near Talmadge Avenue. The department shared body cam footage of the ensuing pursuit on social media. And lucky you get to see it. APD officers were able to catch the goat and found it had no tags, chips, or markings to indicate where it belonged. The goat was picked up by a local animal rescue group, taken to a farm, where she was given the appropriate new name, Fugitive. I always find it interesting, the newer technology that police are using to help people who are in need, or animals, this one's animals, or even for tracking things. Sheriff's offices used drone to rescue 3 deer from a frozen lake. A Wisconsin sheriff's office used a drone to rescue 3 deer that had fallen through the thin ice on a partially frozen lake. Green Lake County Sheriff's Office said deputies responded to Big Green Lake on a report of multiple deer in distress. We've done a lot of human rescues, looking for people, lost people, search and rescue stuff, accident scene crashes. Never done one doing a herd deer drive with a drone. Sheriff's Office shared video on Facebook showing the drone's point of view from the rescue. Ward said deputies were concerned they would spook the doe and two fawns if they tried approaching in person. If we came from the shoreline with the boat, they're just going to try and get away. You're actually doing more harm than good because you're pushing them further and further away from the shore. We couldn't come up in from the water side, but it's obviously frozen over. Ward flew the drone toward the deer from the far side, encouraged them to move closer to the shore rather than farther out into the lake. Ward said one of the fawns was too exhausted to make it over some rocks, but he was able to use the drone to bring the deer close enough to be caught with a rope. The deer family was reunited on shore and returned to the wild. This video is absolutely adorable. Watching them trap this magpie. Animal rescuer captures magpie trapped inside a grocery store. An animal rescuer in Australia came to the assistance of a hungry magpie that went searching for food and ended up trapped inside a grocery store. Nigel Williamson, owner of Nigel's Animal Rescue, responded to the Coles store in Coburg, North Victoria, where the magpie was found wandering loose through the aisles in a successful search for food and an unsuccessful search for the exit. Williamson posted a video showing how he led the magpie to a trap he had set inside the store. The magpie was taken outside the store and released back into the wild. Now, do you remember that story where I had talked about that ice chunk that was like 10 feet, 12 feet tall? I think it was about a month or so ago, maybe a month and a half ago. FAA. Ice chunk that crashed through Florida roof was not from a plane. Federal Aviation Administration said a mysterious ice chunk that crashed through the roof of a Florida home in February did not come from an airplane. The FAA was notified when the large piece of ice fell onto a Palm Coast home on February the 3rd and punched through the metal roof, landing in the structure's living quarters. An FAA spokesperson said the investigation determined a 6 foot by 3 foot ice chunk did not fall from a plane. Still, that's pretty big. Not only tall, but 3 foot wide. My goodness. The FAA contacted airlines whose aircraft were operating in that area when the incident occurred. Inspections of those aircraft did not find any evidence of water leaks that could have caused ice to form on the outside of the aircraft. No further details were provided by the FAA. The ice chunk's origins remain a mystery. You know, there was all that scuttlebutt about the end of December, January, that the aliens were coming. Maybe they came. We'll never know. Painting bought for $2.99 at Goodwill auction for $2,875. An Ohio woman bought a painting for $2.99 at a thrift store, and it ended up being auctioned for $2,875 when it was found to be the work of Johann Berthelsen. Dayton resident Marissa Alcorn said she and her fiance stopped at a Goodwill store after dinner and were able to leave when she spotted an interesting frame on a cart brought out from the back by a store employee. Alcorn told WDTN TV she thought it was an awful painting, but decided to buy it because it was only $2.99. She said she was loading the painting into the car when something caught her eye. It had a little plaque at the bottom of the frame, she said. Out of curiosity, she typed in the name, found it was Johann Berthelsen. Berthelsen, a famed American impressionist, died in 1972. His works often sell for thousands of dollars. My first thought was, this isn't real. It's probably a fake. Members of a free art appraisal group on Facebook urged her to have the painting authenticated. She took it to the Cincinnati auction house, Casa Sykes, where experts confirmed it was indeed a Berthelsen work titled Chapel, St. Patrick's Church. The painting sold for $2,875. Alcorn said the money will go toward her upcoming wedding. I think it's probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I don't think I'll ever find something like that again, but you never know. And our last story. Rescuers save cat with head stuck in metal can. Animal rescuers in Mississippi came to the rescue of a cat seen wandering loose in the neighborhood with a metal can stuck over its head. The Jackson-based Animal Rescue Fund of Mississippi, or ARF, said on social media the rescuers responded to a neighborhood on a report of a cat in distress. The cat was digging through the trash looking for food. It got its head stuck in the cat food can. The cat, which was said to be weak and dehydrated, was caught and the can removed. From the smell, I would say the can had been on the poor cat's head a couple of days. ARF said it is now accepting donations to help pay for the cat's veterinary needs as well as those of the group's other rescued animals. And then they also asked this. Please make sure your garbage cans are closed tightly to avoid any animal getting their head caught. This kitty was one of the lucky ones. And that is it for What in Tarnation. I really would like to know what that ice came from, because that's interesting. It's hard to believe that it would be just something that formed, in the atmosphere and just kept forming till it fell out of the sky. But you never know. Anything could happen, right? And now we're on to the devotional. The devotional comes from With God, I Always Have Hope. I picked this up at Ollie's. All right, overcoming unbelief. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Mark 9:24. When you go through a season of doubt, it is easy to feel ashamed of your wavering faith. God, though, does not reject you when you doubt. Instead, He lovingly leads you back to belief. The man who brought his demon-possessed son to Jesus was openly unsure about whether Jesus had the power to restore his son. If you can do anything, he said, take pity on us and help us. When Jesus noted his unbelief, the man didn't deny it, but in naked honesty, he begged Jesus to help him overcome his unbelief. Despite the man's imperfect faith, Jesus cast the evil spirit out of his son. You can find that story at Mark 9:17 through 26. You can also be honest with Jesus about your doubts. You do not have to wear the smiling mask of perfect faith when your heart is breaking and your hope is wavering. Instead, you can remember that Jesus himself lived in human flesh and understands your heartache and limitations. Lifting your eyes to him and confessing your unbelief is actually a beautiful act of hope. Saying, Lord, I do not see things as they are, but oh, how I want to. He loves that kind of humble faith, and he will bless it. Reflect, in what area am I struggling to believe God? Maybe you're just struggling to believe God in general. Pray. Father God, I am struggling to trust you. My doubts are shouting so loudly that they are drowning out the truth of your word. Although I may not feel hopeful right now, I lift my eyes to you in an act of hope, trusting that you will bring me to a place of renewed belief. I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Declare. God helps my unbelief when I ask. Act. Share with someone an area in which you are struggling to believe God and ask him or her to pray with you for renewed belief. All right, guys, that is it for today. As always, be a little kinder to everyone else and do something kind today. And I will see you again soon. Bye.
Oh, we were tearing down. Sorry.
That's okay.
And so anyways,
and there's a different word too. But so like this morning,
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I'm fine. That's funny. You know the reference, that's funny. One time, I think actually one time we were at a play at Millbrook. I think we've only gone to 2 plays at Millbrook ever. And he shushed me because of that.
What does Ronan need? Izzy has your mouse. You can go get her.